What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. So in this video we're going to be doing a lift kit on a 2019 Jeep Wrangler JL, and this one is similar to a one that I did prior. I did one a little while back and it was actually a JK, and this is a JL. That one was a couple years older, so things should be mostly the same, but I never did end up posting that video. I do still have the footage. If you guys are interested in seeing that, let me know. I never really filmed an outro to it, but this one I'm going to take some fender measurements here and I'll show you guys exactly what we're looking at for fender heights. So starting out, this thing, we're looking at I would say about 34 3/4 to the actual bottom. You could call it almost 35. And in the back, we're looking at close to 35.5 or a little bit higher. 35.5 would be good. So if we're looking at this rough country kit here, which is what we had them purchase, the customer wanted a 2.5-inch lift, so this should give us 2.5 inches. So that should be you know, just that means it sits a little bit higher in the front than it does in the rear, but 35.5 plus a couple and another half, we should be a good amount higher. And I think that it's going to be able to clear in some bigger tires too, which they do want wheels and tires afterwards. So that's kind of the main goal of doing this lift kit, is, you know, to clearance bigger wheels and tires, because that's what everybody wants. So they probably will be able to clearance 35s, maybe 37s with some trimming. I'm not really a Jeep person, but you know, we're going to go ahead and install this kit. So first thing I'm going to do is jack it up, and I'll show you guys where all these parts go. We got some spacers here for the springs. Looks like maybe new bump stops or something. Definitely new sway bar end links, and also new shocks. And these are also some kind of spacer. I'm not sure about that. And a bunch of hardware stickers. But yeah, I'll show you guys as we go. So I got the wheels and tires all off and thrown to the side. So now we're gonna get started. I think the first thing they want you to do is take out, they say, this 18, which is the track bar bolt, and the lower sway bar bolt right here. So I'm going to take those two out, and then I think they want you to remove the drive shaft as well and the shock, because basically we're going to take the whole axle and drop it down so we can get this coil spring out and easily get the new ones in. I don't believe we'll have to use a coil spring compressor. I do have one if we need it, but we shouldn't need to do that. Anyway, we're replacing the shock anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and just take that out as part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this stuff torn apart. Pretty simple stuff, just nuts and bolts, guys. They say they want you to retain this hardware for later reuse, but yeah, it seems pretty straightforward, so I'm just going to start tearing into this thing. Alright guys, so everything you have to do over here is pretty straightforward. Like I said, this front track bar up here, it's just this little tab coming off of the frame. That's actually a 21. I misspoke, and they said it is 21, so I took that out and retained that hardware. Took the lower end link bolts out, nut and bolt out of there, and I was able to turn the wheel with my hands by grabbing the caliper and the rotor and turn it so that I could get my impact gun onto this bolt here to take out the shock, which I took out. It's an 18 on the bottom and also an 18 up top, and if you peel the fender liner back here, you can see where that hole is there. That's where that bolt is, so if you just push up on the liner, you can get something on there. But yeah, so I was able to do that. They also want you to remove the drive shaft, so I took out all 4 15s. I used my impact gun, and now I have it hanging by just a bungee cord here, and so this should hopefully hold it from you know, hanging down too far. When the axle drops, this will come down a little bit, but hopefully not too far, because I have this thing bungeed. I gotta watch this just because of the nature of the way I have it bungeed, but I want to make sure that this thing doesn't hang. They say it could damage the boot, so you want to keep that tied up. I took the 15 out for this bracket here for the brakes, and then I undid all this wiring for the ABS sensor so that it could hang free, so that when we lower this thing down and take out the coil spring, nothing hangs on it. So I think there's some extra stuff I have to do on the other side as well, and I think it's like a 4-wheel drive actuator and some other stuff, but I'll show you guys what's involved on that side. But so far this is pretty easy. So all of this is all undone, and I do have the jack underneath the knuckle just to keep it from falling. because otherwise, you know, you may lose this whole thing and it might all fall and then rip all your wires and stuff. So you kind of want to support the axle while you do all this. And we're going to go ahead and move over to the other side and get started over there as well. Track bar that just came out on us, so that's cool. And we're still working on this spring. This guy is in there. Still not tugging or anything, I don't think. We're looking pretty good. Finally loose. Finally got a loose spring here. So now, just gotta figure out how we're gonna remove the spring. I think we might have to come down just a bit more. Oh, there we go. I was able to actually get it. And now we can move this out of the way and take out our spring. Alright guys, so what they want you to do after you get out the spring, you want to take out this isolator, and they want you to actually cut these alignment things off with a pair of dikes here, just like I'm doing, pair of pliers. And that's that. So now there's no alignment for this, and you go ahead and take one of these and you shoot it up in here, and then this guy goes up in here nicely, and then he'll sit in there and the isolator will sit around that. So essentially we'll sit it in like this. Alright guys, so here's what you're in for. Basically this is a huge pain. These springs are huge, and getting them to actually compress, you would need a spring compressor if you wanted to not lower the axle down so much. They say something about not letting it droop too much, but it is what it is. You know, you gotta let it droop enough to where you can get it out, and you gotta have it pretty low. I almost have it on the ground. I had to move my jack around just to get it low enough. But yeah, I think we're all set now. Don't be like me. I installed it and then I forgot to have this thing in there. This is the bump stop isolator. Basically, when the bump stop comes to hit this guy, he's gonna hit down on this as opposed to way down there, and it's gonna just increase where the bump stop is, so the ride height is lifted to compensate for this spacer up here. So really not changing too much. Just makes it so the body doesn't flex too much because of these spaced out springs or whatever. But yeah, so should be good with that. So I just have to do the other side now. So I'm going to go ahead and unbolt this and put in the new end link. Alright guys, I'm not going to lie. This job totally sucks. I didn't enjoy the last lift kit I did on one of these, and I didn't really enjoy this one. It is a huge pain. The whole straight axle thing in the front that Jeep does, I know it's like good for off-roading and stuff, but it's just a huge pain in the butt. I pretty much got everything all back together and tightened down. I want to really tighten everything under a load. That's my goal. So I want to get it all jacked up again and tighten it down under a load. But the hardest thing for me was this part right here. That guy, he fought me. This track bar just fought me. Could not get it lined up. It needed to come way over this way. I hope that the axle is centered in the end here, because you know, this lift kit is what it is. You know, I don't know. I'm just installing it per the instructions, so we'll see. But that was a huge pain, so I actually had to loosen all the suspension components that I had already put together in order to get that in, and then build everything around that. So make sure you do that first, and then follow with everything else afterwards, because ended up having to basically do the whole job over. So that was kind of not fun, but we did end up getting it done in the end. But that just bit me. It really fought me. And I also messed up the stabilizer links, because I had this sway bar was like down further, and if you connect it down there, then it actually swings the wrong way when you try to like do everything, and it was throwing the axle angle way off. It was terrible. So now I have it like this. Make sure the bars are forward when you do it, and then you'll be all set. And yeah, anyway, still got to hook up the drive shaft. So I got that to do, and then I'm going to get started on the rear. But yeah, this it's not easy. This would be much easier with a lift, but doing it on the ground is pretty tough. So the next step is the rear. So the first thing that we're going to do is put a jack under the rear differential, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the lower sway bar end link bolt, and I'm going to remove the lower shock bolt, and then on both sides, and this thing should come down. I'm also going to unbolt this bracket here so that we get a little bit more brake line hang, so that we're less likely to mess it up. And then we're going to go ahead and install our bump stop spacer here, and we're going to put in our new coil spring spacer up top, and we'll put in our new stabilizer links as well, and the new shocks. So I got to go ahead and do all of that, so I'm going to get started on that shortly. So I'm in the rear right now, and the way that this goes here, as you can see, I have this bolt that goes through the center of this spacer here, and it's going to go through, come out this side, and that's going to actually thread into this guy right here, which you're going to put up inside of where the actual spacer goes. So you have the isolator that's on top of the spring in the rear, and it faces towards the underside of the vehicle. So when you take out that isolator, you're going to put this up on top, and you're going to have it so that the nut is facing up, so you can hit on this with a 19mm, and you're going to sandwich this setup in between where that factory isolator rides or sits in there, and the isolator is going to go then on the bottom of this, and then you're going to put your spring here. So this is your spacer, and it's bolted so that it's secure. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt this guy in. I already got this side all assembled over here. This side is all assembled. It's probably tough to see up in here, but this is all set. We're ready to move on to doing the other side. And I went ahead and put in the spacer. I just got to tighten this down. That's the bump stop spacer, and then the end links go in as well. So that's all fine and good. I did unbolt this right here to give us a little bit of slack. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it seems like we didn't even need it. These brake lines are pretty good in back. We shouldn't have to modify it. However, in the front, I do want to make one modification so that the brake line's clear. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and try to finish this up tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and try to jam out the other side, and then I will go ahead and show you guys everything when it's all said and done. Alright guys, so I put the wheel on already, but I just wanted to go in and show you what I did. You can see the bracket here for the brake line is bent up quite a ways. There was a video that I watched where they cut the brake line out of the bracket, and well, I think that's cool, but I don't know if it's actually necessary. I think you could just bend the bracket, and if you took your time, you could have done probably a better job than I did. But I just bent it so that when the suspension's at full droop, it's not pulling on either the ABS wire or on the brake line, brake hose itself. So I did that on both sides, and now we're good to go. So I just put the wheels on. I'm gonna go ahead and lower this thing down. It looks like we are in up top here. We could maybe rotate a little bit with our spring, but I think it's gonna be okay. But anyway, yeah, it looks like we're ready to go, and should be good to let this thing down and see how it sits. Alright guys, so this is it. This is the final height. So we moved to just about 38 inches in the front, pretty dead on, and in the rear is a little bit of discrepancy from side to side, but it could just be because of the way it's sitting. I might need to take it for a little bit of a test drive, make sure everything feels good. I think I'll worry about that tomorrow. It's pretty late tonight. But yeah, overall, I'm happy. It came out good. It was a bit of a pain in the butt, but I think with the tips that I showed you guys and with the things that I learned from this install, I should be better off doing another one, and it would be easier. The first one is always a tough one, but we do have a good amount of fender clearance there. So from 35.5 to 38 is our 2.5 inches. It's pretty legitimate. I mean, it's not much to mess up. They're 2.5 inch spacers. So yeah, the back is about off a ½ inch from side to side. It's like 37 3/4 on one side and 38 1/4 on the other, but I think that'll level out once the axle actually reaches its equilibrium. But everything is torqued down in the fully tightened down position, and everything seems to be operational. So we're gonna go ahead and take it for a test rip, but that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Hopefully I helped you out a little bit, and hopefully you were able to get this job done, and maybe a little bit easier than the instructions were helping. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and consider subscribing for more instructionals and also some Honda videos. Anyway, peace.